Good morning and good evening. Welcome back to For the Lonely Nights. I'm Paul Kim, and thank you for joining us for another episode of this podcast series. And this episode, it's going to be a little different than the usual, but at the same time, I'm super excited for this one. And it's because, I just finished a time of devos, and, devotionals in and of itself, it's been very on and off for me. This is my first devo in a couple weeks, actually. But yeah, tonight, I just had a time of devotionals with some brothers, and I was going through First Samuel. And just to preface this a little bit, I'm going through this Bible reading plan, and this Bible reading plan I started sometime last year when COVID and quarantine, all of that was happening. Around that time, I started this, and this Bible reading plan, it pretty much it takes you through most of the Bible in about 6 months or so. And here I am a year later, or almost a year later, and I'm still in the first half of this Bible reading plan. But aside from that, I've been kind of going through the Old Testament and some Psalms, some of the New Testament as well. But yeah, I've been going through the Old Testament book by book, and the Old Testament, it definitely is. Sometimes it could be a double-edged sword, and what I mean by that is, you go through all of these stories that you grew up hearing about, that you grew up learning about Abraham, Moses, David, and all of these things. And, it's kind of exciting, to kind of go through it again. But this time, since you're the one actually reading it, you read these word for word, you pick up on little details that you never knew about before. You kind of pay attention more, and sometimes, these stories isn't as clean cut as, we hear about when we're young. And we learn, or at least I do, I learn more about God and see all of these characteristics about who God is, through all of these stories. And it's been such an adventure, honestly. It's been super exciting to read each one. I honestly sometimes feel like I'm in a movie, going through these things. And so I've definitely enjoyed so much of it. But at the same time, on the other hand, the Old Testament, as we all know, can get very dry sometimes, and when it goes through, all of the names and the generations, when it goes through, all the instructions about how to build things like the ark or the tabernacle, things like that, it can get very dry. And if you're not, putting 100% of your focus and of your mind at that time into understanding and learning the word, a lot of these things, it's very easy to kind of miss. It's very easy to take in these things and then, have these things flow out just as quick. And so these past couple chapters in First Samuel, it has, at least to me, it's felt very dry. It's been very difficult to retain what I've been reading, and I guess that also has to do with where my heart and my mind is, while I'm doing these devotionals. But today, so I was kind of coming in expecting around the same thing. But I was reading First Samuel chapter 6 through 8, and in chapter 8 especially, it honestly, it hit me hard. God really spoke to me in his words, and this was surprising because on the outside, you would expect God to speak to you every time you come and read the Bible. But if you're a Christian, if you're a believer, and if you have read the Bible, you know that that's not always the case. Sometimes it's rarely the case, and that's okay. I've learned that that's okay. I've learned that God speaks to you and answers you, and all these things in his time, in his perfect timing and will, and sometimes we miss it. But besides from all that, I, at least for me, it's been a very rare occurrence to just really have something speak to me while I'm reading the Bible. But today it was just such an unexpected surprise, and I just kind of wanted to go through this episode and share my devotional with you. And so, yeah, let's get started. It honestly is such really good stuff. So a little, I guess, backstory to chapter 8 is kind of when this is the time when Samuel was, very old. And he was old and he had these sons who were the next in line to be the leaders of Israel. But these sons, it says that they're not very honest people. They accept bribes and they pervert justice and pretty much, um, they weren't cut out to be the next leaders, and all of Israel saw that. They all saw that these sons were dishonest people, and the elders of Israel gathered together and went to Samuel and said, hey, you're getting old, your time is coming soon, and your sons, who are next in line to lead, they're not really going to cut it, and so they're like, all of the people of Israel, we've come together and we've talked and we've decided that we want a king. We want you to appoint us a king that can rule over us, and that can go before us and fight for us, protect us, lead us. We want a king like all of the other nations have. And, I guess every other nation, just had a king. And this is still kind of like the times of the judges, for Israel. Judges, it's a book in the Bible, yeah. But it's also, God in this period of time appointed judges, to kind of raise up and use in times of crisis, to lead Israel and things like that. And, so Israel didn't really have a king yet. But they're like, yeah, we want a king, we want a king. And, it says this displeased Samuel. And obviously because, his sons weren't being accepted by Israel. But at the same time, he was kind of, it's like, oh, is this really something that we should be asking for? This is coming from the right heart. And so he went to God and he asked God, what should we do? And let me read these verses for you. It's chapter 8, verse 6 through 7. And it says, but when they said, give us a king to lead us, this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord told him, listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you that they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. And I don't know why, but that kind of hit me pretty hard. And I was kind of thinking about it, and it kind of begged me to ask myself, a question just kind of popped into my heart saying, what is my king? What is the king that I keep asking for in my life right now that pretty much, has me rejecting God? And, this is kind of something that's been on my heart for a while now recently. And it's something that God's been continuing to just guide me in and kind of take me through just with his word and with a lot of other things as well. But yeah, so I'm kind of asking myself, what is my king right now? And the obvious thing, that's kind of coming out to me is, pretty much all of these worries and thoughts that I have of the future. And I know, we hear it all the time, especially college students, especially young people, that's all we talk about. That's all we kind of bring up when we're in Bible study. That's all of the prayer requests we ever hear is, for my future, for my job, for God to lead us, to God to show us the way that he has planned for us. Things like that, for school, for good grades, for opportunities, for internships. And honestly, at this point, like, that's something that I really just kind of hate to hear. whenever I'm, you know, doing some devos with people, and it's like the prayer request time, and people are saying like, oh, prayer request for um, this opportunity, prayer request for this job, and things like that. I'm not saying like these are bad things. I think these are great, that these people are really putting their trust and offering these things to God, for God to lead and to open doors. But to me, um, it's like kind of like, oh, this again, like heard this a million times. And I think, it also has to do with a part of me, as I am right now, just not knowing what my next step is. I'm a senior in college now, and I'm graduating a quarter early too. So this is my last quarter. I only have a few weeks left ahead of me of school, and honestly, I don't have a plan. And it is, in this kind of environment at this stage in life, it's embarrassing to admit that. It's embarrassing and it's shameful to say that you don't have a plan. You don't have things set up for you right after you graduate. Because then people are like, what have you been doing this whole time while you're in school? And then honestly, I know that too. And I kind of always used to say like, oh, I'm just trying to focus on God. I'm trying to um, focus on loving the Word, and living by the Word. And I know everything else would work out. But at the same time, if I'm being real with myself, do I truly believe that? Am I truly living each day right now reflecting that? Or am I just still living the same way as I always have? And, with still no plan, with still nothing solid ahead of me. And so, yeah, maybe it's because I myself, that's something I've always worried and try to avoid thinking about myself, that's something that I hated to hear. But, that's obviously something that I really can't look over and ignore anymore, because it is such a reality that I have to face very soon. And, so I kind of came to terms with it. I'm like, you're right. Right now, that is just kind of what I keep asking God for, and to keep kind of calling out for. God, I want opportunities. God, I want open doors. God, I want to know that you got my back, that even if I graduate college, that you're going to lead me and you're going to provide me with some sort of job, some sort of internship, some sort of something where I can feel secure in, where I can know that, oh, okay, like, so, like, I'm not gonna be struggling, financially. I'm not gonna be, um, lost anymore, like, oh, okay, like, I could take this road and I could, make a career out of it. I could, and things like that. I could find stability in this, and stability, security, that's always something that, I've always kind of crying out for. And I always mask it with a little godly flair. I say, God, you know, I want, I'm going to trust in you. I'm going to obey you. And I know you're going to lead me to the right places. I know you're going to lead me so that I don't have to worry about any money problem, financial problems, or anything like that anymore. Because I know you got my back. And so things like prayers like that I offer to God is honestly just so selfish. And it's just me kind of telling God, hey, God, like, just give me these things, but I make it sound good. And so, yeah, before I go off topic, that's just kind of what's kind of came up in my heart. And, even in this kind of chapter, the people of Israel, they keep saying like, hey, we want a king like all of the nations around us. And, we want a king over us, then we will be like all the other nations. That's what it says. We will be like all of the other nations. And, that actually, kind of stood out to me too, because be like all of the other nations. These people of Israel were looking at all of the other people around them and being like, dang, I want to be like them. They seem to be having a good time. They seem to be doing well. I want to be more like them. I want to be where they are. And, Israel, they're the chosen people of God, and God's shown them time and time again over generations and generations all of the power and majesty and, um, just who God is. He's done miracles upon miracles. He's led them through fire. He's led them through the desert. He's led them through wars. You know, all of these things. Like, God is presides over this nation, and yet they still look towards all of the other worldly things around them and say, I want that. And that's so you know I'm sure a lot of people can relate, and me especially too. Um, God is always calling me, and always telling me whenever I do these devos, and whenever I say God, whenever I pray the prayers, hey God, what's my next step? Give me a vision, give me a calling, this and that. He always says, hey, like, stop looking up in the sky for answers in the clouds. Just look down, look in the Bible. That they're all the answers that you will ever need are right there. I've already provided them for you. But time and time again, I don't look down into the Bible. I don't look down to His Word. I look around me. I look at, all of these posts on social media. I look at all of these things and say, I I get scared because I see, in this world, or at least, what social media has this belief is that there's really only two outcomes, that's waiting for you once you graduate. Is either you do the right things, make the right moves, work, dedicate all of yourself into, this goal, this career, this job, and you will be stable and you will have that happily ever after. You will have that happy ending. Or if you don't do that, then you're gonna end up, struggling. You're gonna end up in the bottom class. You're not gonna have enough money to go to the hospital when you or your family is sick. You're not gonna have, the time to even spend with your kids because you're working all day so that you can make the rent. You're not gonna be able to afford nice vacations. You're not going to be able to do this and that. You're going to be stressed all the time. You're going to be struggling. You're going to be clawing your way each and every day. And that is kind of like the hell that, that is, pictured in social media, in this world, in this environment, in this society. And, a lot of us take that to heart. I mean, we have to. That's it's all around us. That's what's been nailed into our heads every single day, as we're growing up. And so, it's so hard not to look around and see all these people, and especially now since I'm getting older, people in my age group, out there have things lined up. It seems like they're doing so much with their lives, and they're going places and that they're going to be fine in the future. And it's so hard to look at them and not be like, dang, I want that too. I want, that opportunity. I want to be in their shoes where I can know that I'm safe. And, yeah, and so I'm doing the same thing that the people of Israel here are doing. I'm telling God, hey, give me a king. Give me a king, God, so I can be like everyone else. That I could be like all of the other nations. That, I could know that I'm safe. I could know that I'm protected. I could know that I will be provided for. That I could be happy. And, the funny thing is, reading this, it's not like God was not going to provide Israel with the king. God was going to give Israel a king. He was planning to appoint a king to Israel all this whole time. Even back in Deuteronomy, God was talking about like instructions for when He finally does appoint Israel a king. And so it's always been in God's plan to give Israel a king, but just in His perfect timing and in His will, and whoever He chooses. But Israel and me, Um, Time and time again, foolishly, we're just so selfish. We're so impatient, and we just say, no, we want it now. We want this now. This is what we want. And we reject God. We reject the Lord. We reject His perfect will and planning. We reject Him, just God Himself. And we look towards all of these other things. We look towards a king. And, this pretty much, this is kind of saying, to wrap it all up. Um, it's so true when we say that God has everything planned out for us, even though as cliche as it sounds, it's so true that God is going to that that if we just focus on God, if we follow Him, obey Him, love Him like He has commanded us to each and every day of our lives, devote our whole lives and our whole uh, just who we are to Him, that everything else will work out according to His perfect will, and that it will be for our good. And you know I feel like I said, that's like something that I say and something people say to um, kind of relieve the pressure and be like, hey, don't worry if you don't have things figured out or lined up yet, you know God will work things out. I feel like now it's becoming one of those things where people, yeah, people say just to have other people feel good about themselves at that time. But it's so true. It's in the Bible, it's in the Word, and it's what God continually tells us. Um, and yet, you know, I'm sorry, I kind of kind of lost my train of thought. But yeah, this is what God continually tells us. But and you know, we and he will provide us with these things. He will provide us with everything that we ever need. He will provide us with, the next steps to take. He will provide us to, you know, jobs maybe or opportunities or open doors that, He planned out for us. And all of these things will be perfect, and we will be safe, and we will be protected, and we will be just secure within God's hands, within God's plans. And, you know, everything, we will have that happy ending, you know? But it it's so hard to trust that, it's so hard to know that. And um it's so hard to just be patient and wait and just for uh God to give us that king in His timing. And so that leads us to uh just ask for our own, ask for our own plan, ask for our own construed vision, and all these things that we think are good for us. And, just God had a king planned out, and He had a great king, I'm sure. But since Israel demanded a king out of, such bad intentions and reasons, they ended up with a king that was bad, that was, you know, just not what they expected. And they learned a great lesson from that, I'm sure, and I'm sure, we've, or at least I've learned a lot of lessons in my, life as well, because of, the same thing happening over and over again, where I um, just kind of ask God for my own things, for my own goals, my own desires, and, things don't work out because it's not God's plan. And I learn. But how many times does it have to take for me to go through that, for me to just finally understand, to just be at peace with God, And so that's basically, my whole Devo. And um, I think that just kind of brings me to just the point of a peace. And, knowing all of these things, knowing, that I should be looking inside the Word, I should be obeying God and being patient with Him, knowing that, it is good, but at the same time, I don't have the strength myself. I don't have the discipline. I don't have the passion. I don't have what it takes to just really carry that out and to really live by that each and every day. I don't have the strength for that, you know? Um, and so as I continue to lean on God for His strength, for His guidance, for for just pretty much everything, you know, for my just lean completely upon Him each and every day, and you know, as He by His strength and by His plan guides me through each and every day through His word, and nurtures me and equips me and leads me, you know, during this time. um, I just kind of want to ask for peace, um, to trust that God will do all that. That God, that if I just completely uh, surrender myself, follow God as He has commanded, not for my own selfish wants or needs, not because I think I'm going to get something out of it later on, but just truly because I love God. I think just right now I need that peace, just knowing that God is good, and that He's a good Father, and that He will continue to be a good Father for me. Um, and so, you know, there's no need for me to worry about my future, or my, you know, where I'm going to end up financially, or who I'm going to end up with romantically, and all of these other details, you know. I would, you know, that I would just be I would be just at peace right now, knowing that I'm here right now with my God, my Father, and um, just really yearn and to just seek Him more. Just really yearn for this time that I have with Him in prayer, in word, in praise. So yeah, it definitely was. I'm sure I rambled a lot. I was kind of going through it while I was talking. You know, I was kind of going through it myself, and just kind of figuring it out. But it really was a blessing, honestly. And honestly, like, I'm not gonna say anything like, oh, I'm gonna be committed to consistently do devos for, you know, every day, because I think more than just looking towards tomorrow, I want to be right with God, you know, today, in the now. And so that's how I'm just really gonna continue to um, live day by day, is just continue to be right with God as I am now. Um, and hopefully, yeah, I'll just continue to pray to God, to just bring me to His word day in and day out, bring me in His presence, and you know, it's gonna be good. You know, I'm super excited to see what else He has in store. So with that being said, yeah, hopefully, you know, maybe God spoke to you a little bit while listening to my Devo, and you know, I think this is something that all of us can really, or at least relate to, and just really think about as we all near that time of graduation and everything. So yeah, I usually end off with a verse, but since this whole episode was a Devo, I guess it kind of works out. So with that being said, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for just joining me on this ride. Honestly, guys, let's just really give it all to God, you know, and not just in word, but just really with our lives, every day. Just truly yearn to be that much closer with God, to know that much more, to praise Him and glorify Him that much more. Because we all know how good He is. And so, yeah, just keep giving it all to God. Just keep hanging in there, as it is like midterm season for UCLA people. And I don't know, Pep's still on break, I think. So y'all chilling, but good luck for this next week. Until we see each other again, have a beautiful day. Have a fantastic, fantastic rest of the night. And as always, all glory to God.